Well, you're probably all familiar with what's happening in China, which is that the internet has enabled the Chinese government to have access to data about its citizens without parallel in the history of authoritarian regimes. And with the deployment of surveillance technology, cameras and facial recognition technology, the government is edging towards having real-time coverage of its population's every move. The amazing thing that happened was that China was able to keep the American internet companies out, allow its own internet companies to flourish, Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, create an extraordinarily vibrant ecosystem in which Chinese citizens, like their American counterparts, gave up their data to the network platforms. The difference being that the Chinese government was able to say to the network platforms, oh, that's interesting, we'd like to see that, and they can see it. And so what has happened is like this extraordinary variation on a theme by George Orwell. If you remember in 1984, which you should all reread if you haven't read it recently, the telescreen is on the wall of every apartment, and everything that Winston does is seen by the telescreen. But this is a very different kind of telescreen because we carry it around with us and we kind of volunteer for surveillance. Social credit is kind of beyond regular credit. Your credit score is not just going to be, did you remember to pay the electricity bill? Your social credit score is going to be, were you a good citizen when it came to fill in the blank? Did you, in fact, fully live up to the ideals of Xi Jinping thought? So this is kind of beyond 1984 because the level of surveillance is far greater. The ability of the citizen to behave outside the range of monitoring will be greatly limited. And we should all be scared about that because this is not something that necessarily stays in China. On the other hand, let's remember two things. Any regime that has so little confidence in its own people that it has to spend more money on domestic surveillance and policing than on defense is not strong. Secondly, totalitarianism, even with 20th century technology, failed. And although he didn't have facial recognition, Stalin pretty much had every Soviet citizen under as good surveillance. Because in the Soviet Union, you didn't really know if you were being watched, but you really didn't want to take the chance that you were being watched. So even if you were completely alone in an empty room, you acted like you were being watched. I know, because I remember going there. So it's not like this is completely new. You acted in the Soviet Union as if you were being under permanent surveillance, just on the off chance that you were. And that system failed. It failed completely. It failed completely because human beings are not, in fact, designed to be under 24/7 surveillance by Big Brother or anybody else, Mark Zuckerberg for that matter. We are not supposed to be under that level of state control or corporate control. Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground is a must-read. So Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground is great because he says, somehow intuitively sensing where modernity is going, that we will be supposed to live under some timetabling so precise that our every move will be pre-calculated and foreseen. And you know, it's an amazing thing for somebody to write in the middle of the 19th century, but it's like a vision of the future under surveillance with AI anticipating our every move. And Dostoevsky says, no, man will revolt against this. Man will insist on his right to do the irrational, on his right to defy what became Big Brother. So I think while it's very chilling that the Chinese state is embarking on this enterprise, it will fail. Because all projects to achieve total central control of very large numbers of human beings fail. And they fail because that is not how we are designed by evolution to operate. We're actually designed to operate in relatively free-wheeling, smallish networks. Actually, we're quite close to the Dunbar number here tonight, which is the right number of people. We could all get to know one another, and we could quite effectively cooperate together to solve all of Australia's problems. That's kind of how we're designed.